forward. I remembered. Okay, so this training is going to be focused in on how to really speak to your ideal customer or promoter, your prospective promoter. If you can do attraction marketing, you can do attraction marketing for a customer as well as for your ideal promoter. So why I believe, and I've actually been seeing it, I'm going to pull up my screen. Why this is important is because everyone online is trying to sell something. And we, regardless of if you're in network marketing, you have an Etsy shop, all the things, people have figured out that social media is free marketing. And back when I was in an aesthetics business way back when, and I was hopping on to social media roughly about 2009. That's when I was like, my family would say, why are you on social media? It was a perfect outlet to really market yourself. But we are inundated with savvy users, savvy customers that know how to Google things. They are tired of trying to be sold online. So we have to craft our message specifically geared towards someone that understands what we're talking about, because we know how they feel, we know what their pain points are, and we want those people coming to us saying, whatever you posted spoke directly to me. What you're saying is exactly what I've been needing to hear. Those are the types of messages that I would really like to see more people get, that are just showing up on social media and providing content that resonates with their ideal customer. For me, it has shifted. The network marketing industry has shifted several years ago, but I didn't start to notice it till 2009. And I've been really trying to decode it, and I've figured it out, and how important it is just to know that ideal customer, who that ideal customer is, speaking their language and connecting in a way that doesn't seem salesy. So a lot of this piece will play a huge role when we get into talking about copywriting or just writing for that ideal customer. But before we can do that, we have to know specifically who that individual is, what their pain points are, what lights them up, what they go and Google, what they want to know more of. We need to know exactly who that individual is. And every time I've helped someone in this area, they start to narrow it down, but they almost are apprehensive about being even more specific or polarizing themselves more, because they feel like they're going to leave out a mass quantity of people that they think, if I specifically speak to that one person, I'm missing out on all the other people. And I have a slide in here that shows a saying that I'm sure you all have heard. If you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. So, and it's so true. Like, the clarity in your message becomes easier for the end user to see and understand in a point where you actually connect. So that's why I really, truly feel it's important. And as time goes by and so much of all the information is inundated on social media, it's important that we stand out. Now, I know that used to scare me, because I used to think to myself, how am I supposed to stand out? I'm a thriver. I don't know like what else to show up with and show up differently. But it's actually easier than you think. Because sometimes, again, our mind will want to protect us and make us think it's hard. So why is it important? It's important for us to know who our ideal customer is or promoter, because it gives you clarity in who you are talking to, and it allows you to speak to their pain points, because you can identify what their pain points are. And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. As you talk about the pain point, that you actually have a solution to their problem. And we have a twofold here. We have a solution to problems that involve health. We have a solution to a problem where people either need extra income. They have a child that's going into college. They have to pay for another car payment because their child is at that age where they need another car. We have a solution to multiple problems. It's just a way of how we need to craft it, and knowing exactly what that person is that's struggling, that we can speak to those pain points. Hopefully that makes sense. It also allows you to be relatable while making them feel heard and understood. I absolutely love it when someone comes to me saying, I mentioned it before, what that post you just posted spoke to me. I need to know more about what it is that you're sharing, especially when I'm just sharing my story. I'll show some examples too in a few minutes. The biggest part I love about really identifying who this individual is and really polarizing who that individual is that I am able to create new connections and new conversations. So if you are in this space of, I have no one to talk to, then you haven't tapped into who your ideal customer is. Because if you are on social media building your business and you aren't crafting your message for that ideal customer, your well will never run dry, because there's always going to be someone. And although you may think it's just one individual, it's like the nucleus of who you're targeting. But in that nucleus, around that nucleus, you'll actually have people that resonate with what you're saying as well. It just makes things more clear. And to tell you the truth, it makes writing a post so much easier for me. And maybe some others will agree. Knowing your ideal customer allows you to build the like, know, and trust factor. All in all, that's what it is. I know that a lot of people like to do face-to-face. That is essential for business, but you can double your business by doing this on social media and still do face-to-face in that same way. So you can still apply the face-to-face when you make those connections on social media. It's just done a little bit differently. So being on social media is all about building those connections, building that like, know, and trust factor, building a community and serving that community. I have found that as I am able to serve my ideal customer, I'm able to hit more people and get them curious about the product, especially when I talk about the product in my stories. When I talk about the product in my stories, I will always get someone that asks me a question, which means that the conversation has started and they are in my direct message, and that's where I want them to be. So it's important to know who that ideal customer is. And I'm in a couple of slides, if there's anyone that just really wants to figure out who theirs is, we can actually go through like some questions, some Q&A to really identify who that is. And it's forever evolving, I will tell you that much. I feel like I've really niched down a lot. There's that word niche, right? I didn't want to use that, but that's essentially what we're doing. I didn't want to go this direction, but when I created that post, I don't know, it was on a Transformation Tuesday, the messages that I got, the comments, it was telling me that that was the direction I needed to go. So sometimes if you are struggling with this, trying to figure out who that ideal customer is, sometimes it comes to you based on the interaction that you get in a post that you create. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you guys have questions. This is all interactive. So, again, knowing who your ideal customer or promoter is helps you to plan your content, your posts on social media with intention rather than throwing spaghetti on the wall. So many times, maybe a year and a half ago, I'd be like, okay, I need to check that box off my 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't know what the heck to post. So I create a post that makes is just so random. It is throwing spaghetti on the wall. It's so random that typically if I tag people I know, they'll respond, but no new people will respond. And typically the people that respond are already thriving. So I don't need them. Narrowing your message. Knowing your ideal customer or promoter allows you to narrow your message even more. It allows you to create content that is clear and focused on that one single person. Again, I'll share an example soon. So this is what I mentioned earlier. I'm sure you all have heard this. If you're talking to everybody, you're not actually talking to, I don't know. Anyways, I mess up metaphors anyways. Your message isn't clear, so you're not really speaking to anybody. You're trying to get everyone, but your message isn't being polarized enough where it actually resonates with one person, even though it can resonate with multiple people. I don't know if that gets confusing, but I think what people end up doing is they get stuck about the mindset of, well, I'm going to be missing out on a bunch of other people if I just stick to this one individual. But it's just the opposite. So any questions in regards to why it's important? We are business entrepreneurs. And this is the marketing where we really need to play up. This is something that no one really teaches us, but it's really important. And that's why when we see, like, I'm going to use Courtney Glausler as an example. When she talks about joining group pages, who else is the other one? Coggins, forget her first, Lauren, is that her name? Anyways, when they talk about
Lindsay
joining groups, it allows, when we join groups, we're actually narrowing down who we're speaking to by joining a group that resonates with us. For example, those of you that know, I like DIY projects. I've been able to make new connections because of that. My sourdough journey has brought me new connections because I've been talking about that. And it's bringing me into an area, a community of people that I have not touched before, but then I'm allowed to build like, know, and trust factor, because I know that that same person that I'm talking to is also in those groups or hanging out in those hashtags. So it's important to know who you're talking to simplify your message. All right. Any questions before we move on? Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit about this. I'm going to share more about what it is that I have done. And I feel like my message is being heard because I have more people in my DMs, because I feel like I've niched down even more because I've targeted a specific group of people. So in this workbook that I talked about, for those people that hopped on earlier, I'll attach a workbook to the group page, but it's going to help you define who your ideal customer is, so that in moments, and I have these moments, in moments where I'm like, okay, I don't know what message to craft this week. Who am I speaking to? It will show me, it will remind me who I'm speaking to and what their pain points are. So defining who they are starts with a general audience. Who are they? I'm going to walk through just an example. For me, it's a female. That's my general audience. I'm going to get specific. Getting specific is the second piece to defining and polarizing who it is you're speaking to. This female is in her mid 40s to early 50s. I'm getting more specific. And my polarity is that they are in menopause. Like, getting really clear about that. And I'm going to share examples of a few that I've helped others as well. This is how you find out who that is. And sometimes if you look back at who you were before you started Thrive, that's exactly who your ideal customer is. And maybe you already speak to them. But for those that are struggling with really understanding how to connect with new people and how to really start that conversation, building that like, know, and trust factor, this is exactly where you need to be and define. I have an individual, Hannah, who is a promoter, and her and I are working together. She is a homesteader. She's starting to dive into Instagram, and she's a homesteader. So I'm really having to help her craft her ideal customer by speaking about what she's passionate about. So I'm diving into speaking to what she's passionate about, and diving in deeper to have her have polarity. So her general audience would be a homesteader. Her specific is a brand new homesteader that might be a brand new mom. So we're getting really specific. There's lots of homesteaders, but it's a new mom who's a homesteader and who's a beginner at homesteading. And through polarity, this individual, her ideal customer is wanting to learn more about homesteading, and that's who she's speaking to. So we've narrowed it down to a general audience of homesteader. What type of homesteader? She's a brand new mom, and she really wants to learn a new way of living. So that's who she's speaking to. She's going to craft her content based on things that would resonate with her. So anybody want me to like kind of dig through theirs, just drop them in the comments. But I'm going to give you an example of how mine has transformed. Like, I get really geeky about gut health. And I know just through personal experience of going through menopause that it is an area that the two go hand in hand. And because I'm a part of a Facebook group of struggling menopausal women, like, I see them complaining, I see what they're struggling with, and that becomes my content because that is the pain point. Those are the pain points that I need to address and help them with. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how I've been able to really narrow it down, because I just thought, okay, in the beginning, I knew it was a woman. I knew that she was in her mid 40s. I didn't have the polarity just yet. I think I was in denial of just menopause in general, but I was in denial of wanting to help these women, but there's so much that I can help them with. And so a post that I crafted actually attracted multiple women in that age group that actually commented on my post. So that was the post that clearly defined it for me, what my who my ideal customer is. Am I losing anybody? Anybody have any questions? I know typically sometimes with people, it's a struggle because they don't feel like they know enough to share in areas of making it niche down with polarity and having the ability to add value. I think sometimes we start to lose sight of, and I've had a couple of people come to me. I don't know if they're on this team, but I know that they're thrivers. They're asking me all these questions about, how do you know it's about gut health? How do you know all this stuff about gut health? Look, I'm not a professional in gut health, but I can certainly Google something and I learn from multiple resources online that teach me more. And I've got books that I've read in regards to specific issues that I've had, so that I can speak to that person with the struggles that they're having. And then two, I pay attention to those that I believe are my ideal customer and what they're complaining about on social media, so that I can craft content in regards to that. And an example would be, there was a woman in her stories talking about how she was breaking out and that she was feeling sluggish and tired. Those are all related to gut health. Again, I don't have the profession of a gut health guru, but I know that it's all tied together. So I share with what I learn. Let me see. I thought I saw a question here. Let me move this. Would you have your week planned out? Oh, yes. The forever the promos that pop up is really challenging. It's a little bit of a shift. We get them all the time, right? We get pop-up promos all the time, and it puts us in this frantic mode of, okay, now I need to pivot. And honestly, the way I handle the promos is the conversations that I have been having during the week are the people that I'm going to share the promo with first. Specifically, if we're talking about this particular promo, the promoter packs, I'm specifically going to the people that I'm in conversation with already to share more about what the promo is. So I'm not just blasting it on my stories. I'm not blasting it on my page. I'm directly communicating with the people I've talked to throughout the week. And then I will create posts in regards to what corporate post. And I typically will do them in my stories versus my content that goes on my grid, or which then goes to my Facebook page. Hopefully that makes sense. Anybody else have any questions in regards to that? I really try not to be in that desperation mode when these promos come up, because that's typically where I used to be when the promos would pop up. Like I was in a hurry to get it done. But I am more aware of the fact that I want more sustainable business versus someone I move from point A to point B just so I can get that bonus. So that's where I stand. All right. Any other questions in regards to promos? Did that answer your question, Janelle? Or did that answer anybody else's question that might have that same question? All right. So let's talk a little bit about when we, by knowing who they are, we can actually add more value. We understand their needs, right? And how we can best serve them. So again, my example of my ideal customer is I'm really adding value by teaching the individual about how their gut is related to this phase of life that they're going through and how it can make all the symptoms exacerbated versus more mild. So I'm adding value by educating people on just my personal experience. I can also add value because I know what our probiotics can do. I could talk about the probiotics. And if you haven't like taken the time to learn more about what these probiotics do, it's a great way to do market research for yourself so you could create content based on that, because it affects our gut health, affects our overall health and well-being. And we can easily add value for anyone that is tired and exhausted and can't really figure out what the heck's happening to them, in sharing over and over again, because people need to see it more than one time. But if they are struggling with those things, we can actually add value in those areas. So by knowing who they are and what their pain points are, we can start to educate people on whatever pain point they're struggling with. Mine is menopause. So I'm going to start making funny reels about the whole situation. I'm going to start educating people about how gut health is connected to their hormones. I'm adding value. I'm sharing recipes. Those types of things you can easily add value, but it doesn't help when you don't really know exactly what that individual is looking for or what they need. So that's how knowing who they are will help you add value in a direction that they could utilize the information. Y'all are quiet. I agree, Janelle. So putting it all together, knowing who that ideal customer is, speaking their language allows you to connect. And it's very interesting because now that I'm aware of this, I now see what pops up in my feed more. I'm connecting, and it's very interesting because I've kind of been putting it to the test. When I'm building a project and I might be sharing it in my stories, or I might share it on my grid, I start to see more people building projects. When I start making sourdough, I start seeing people in my newsfeed pop up with sourdough. When I talk about menopause or midlife women, like that stuff will pop up, and I will actually look at these individuals to make them new followers or just engage and connect to build community. Because I know who she is, I need to hang out where she is. So we can attract them by speaking their language. Again, like Curtis, because you're right here, he doesn't relate to menopause. Like, well, maybe because he has a wife, but like, you know what I mean? Like if I know Kevin somewhere on here, he talks about cars. It may not be interesting to me, but he's going to attract those people that love cars, that love the dogs that he has, mastiffs. Like, if you're speaking to those individuals, you know exactly what to talk about. But when you don't know who that specific individual is, you're struggling to put content up, you're throwing spaghetti at the wall, and you're not getting anything back. But knowing who they are also allows us to serve them, meaning adding value in ways that can help them, right? We're interacting with the individuals that fit that category. I'm serving them. I'm liking and commenting. I'm engaging with their stories. If I'm doing that, they're seeing my content. If I create, this is what I've noticed too, and maybe this is not new to you, but it is, I'm more aware of it now. When I spend 15 minutes engaging with people and then posting, I immediately see those individuals that know how to leverage social media will like and comment on my stuff, who are not thrivers. Like, it's the whole you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type thing. So, but they are in the demographic that I am wanting to serve and that my ideal customer would be found. Adding value, sharing things that we find that they would find very helpful. Tips, like the one post I keep referring to. Here, let me stop this really quick. I'm going to share my phone and remove all the messages that might be. And let's see. This one. And Janelle, you commented on it too. But it was the one where I said, I found the secret to the fountain of youth. And it was a before, and it was like before Thrive, after Thrive. But so I'm explaining how like miserable things would feel during menopause. And I then, because I knew she's struggling, I want to add value. So I'm adding some tips, what to recognize, and 5 things that I did that helped me. So this is a way of adding value to that individual that I know is struggling, because I know what her pain points are, right? I can say to myself, this is what she's struggling with. This is what I need to create. This is how I can serve her, because I know exactly who she is. Does that make sense? And then, because I know this stage of life gets crazy, that there's a lot of people, there's a lot of memes, there's a lot of people that make fun of this stage of life. And sleep is something that gets knocked out of this category where you get insomnia. So I made a funny reel about it, and I got a lot of people sending me direct messages. And what I've also found, that normally people don't like to talk about this stage, and they won't comment in my feed, but they'll send me a direct message because they're embarrassed at this with this stage of life. I don't know. They don't like to People don't like to talk about it. So are there any questions? I'm trying to, where'd you guys go? And does anybody want me to go over some examples of maybe what they think or who they think they might be talking to? It really does make creating a post so much easier. And then tying it with the product is also easier as well. So, okay, so there will be a workbook on, I'm going to put the recording, Janelle, where should I put this recording? But I'll put the workbook out if you need it on the team page. Should I just save it and then put it to the YouTube page, or do I send it to Jenny?
She sent me, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm outside. She did send me the YouTube page channel and the login. So why don't you send it to me?
Okay.
And we'll get it in there. And then I think we'll have to put that link, the YouTube channel thing, probably in one of our files.
Yeah.
Or guides so they can find it. So
yes,
we'll be sure to kind of post it on the timeline. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. So if you guys, I don't think we put the hashtag stuff up, but if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We are going to dive deeper into this when we get into teaching more about copyright, because in order to, which is a fancy way of really writing a post that speaks to your ideal customer and gets them to buy. That's the fancy, copyright is the terminology that people like to use. But we're going to share more on how to craft that, but knowing who your ideal customer is or ideal promoter, because if you can market to your ideal, if you know how to use attraction marketing for the product, you know how to use attraction marketing for the opportunity as well. I'm going to stop sharing, and I finished that in a little over 30 minutes. You're welcome. This stuff I like to talk about. So if you guys have any questions and don't know where to start, I will dig deep into getting to know who you are and what you're passionate about and help you go in that direction and find your happy space of who you want to talk to. So, all right, y'all, I will stop the recording.